it got kind of personal. I had a different background than Webb did, and I did the best I could, but he made it plain he wasn't crazy about me. It did get personal. It was my responsibility to be up at night, and usually about 2 in the morning, he would wake up and wake everybody in the house up, pull the tubes out, give everybody a hard time. And it just went on for months, and his body deteriorated. About the only thing I could do at night is give him more morphine. One of the things I noticed, if I gave him more Ativan, he would be a little more restful. I figured Ativan, anti-anxiety. So I got to think, he's dying soon. He's got this background of life that he's lived, and he's looking forward to not very good prospects, I imagine. So we continued on this for a while, and one day, I woke up and the sun was up, and I thought, oh, I slept last night. Oh my gosh. So naturally, I peeked down to Webb's room, and I looked in at Webb, and he's sitting kind of propped up in the bed, and he's a changed man. And I know people. He's a changed man. I said, Webb, what's up? He said, she told me it was going to be okay. And I said, just going to check him out, and walked around the room a little bit, and I said, who told you? He said, that woman you was praying at. And I said, the picture of Mother Theresa on the wall, I said, her? He said, no, that other one you was praying. So I got a picture of Mary and I brought it over to him, and he said, oh yeah, that one. Like it was a police lineup. It's like somebody'd see once. Oh yeah, that one. I said, what did she tell you? He said, she told me it was going to be okay. She was so beautiful. His face was just lit up. He was a changed man. He was as cool as the underside of the pillow from that day on. I know something happened to him. I didn't see it, but the power of grace and the power of Mary did something to him. He died peacefully. I think Webb's in a better place today. I still pray for him. Maybe I should be praying to him. I don't know. But that's the power of grace, and that's the power of things that happen around Mother Theresa. A person who, is not world class. We had a meeting recently. I got some things up here if you like the things. And we had a meeting where her family came to Pittsburgh, and her lawyer, and her doctor, and just PWTN, CNN, most people were there to kind of honor the fact that she passed on. And it was interesting that what everybody said about her was she was nothing special. She was not a unique person when she grew up in Albania. And she was not a unique person when she was a sister in Calcutta. But something happened to her. And if you read the books or see the videos, that something happened to her was Jesus. Something happened to her concerning Jesus. When you were around Mother Theresa, she never talked about philosophy. She never talked about theology. She just talked about Jesus. It was just Jesus. That was the source of the success, the source of the Nobel Peace Prizes. It's just the kind of experience you had around her. If you read, she's up now for canonization. For us Roman Catholics, that's a big deal. Being canonized just doesn't mean that you're a good person. It means you're part of the canon of the church. For a 2,000-year-old organization, that's a big deal. And so, there's a lot of things being written now. But the thing that means the most to me as an MC is the line that says, Teresa of Calcutta, longing to love Jesus as he had never been loved before, refused him nothing. That's my experience of her. She refused Jesus nothing. It made for a hard life. My sense is Jesus asked a lot of her. And my sense also was that every time that Jesus asked something of her, she did it. It wasn't easy. My experience with Mother Theresa and most of the MC sisters is they basically eat garbage. If you can imagine food that is donated for poor people eat first, and And then Mother Teresa ate his sister. So you get the leftovers from the leftovers. Basically what was the diet that she lived on. In fact, she lived at 87. I think it was amazing because of the really poor nutrition. But maybe that's not her. Maybe it really was Jesus. For Teresa of Calcutta, I think it was that. So when I share stories or share background about what it was like to hang out with a saint, it was really simple. She was the real thing. People always say, what was it like? I always say the same thing. She was the real thing. I've been a counselor for a number of years, done thousands of assessments on people. I think I know people. But with her, she was just so congruent. What you see is what you got. It wasn't philosophy or talking about things. She lived Jesus the best she could every day. And that was the source of her grace, the grace for the MCs, the working with the course support, was that she was really authentic. And hopefully I can communicate that as well as possible tonight about her, about this person who isn't canonized yet, that's in the offing. What I'm sharing is not so much about Mother Teresa, it's about you. Your experience is important here tonight. What sort of charity you're called on to do in life? What volunteerism you're called on to do in life? I'll share a little bit about me, because some of these things have happened in my life, and you have to kind of check me out and see if I'm a real person or not. That's going to be part of it. Is am I authentic? I'm straight out of Maumee. Grew up in 419, like most of you did. Came to Bowling Green. I know it was probably many years ago, from your point of view. This is the room I studied in. This was, when I was an undergrad here in the 60s, this was our study room. You know, us boomers, we did a lot of things together, so we all studied in this room together. It was huge, hundreds of us at big oak tables all at the same time. So that was the experience of being here, being a student. It was different than being a student at BGSU in the 60s. Just as an example, when classes were over with in the springtime, I'd take my stuff up to my parents' house in Maumee, hitchhike to San Francisco. I mean, a lot of us did. It was just a different world where you could hitchhike and be safe and have experiences. So I always had this background of being attracted to San Francisco, but having this as my home. It's really interesting to be back here again, being a student again here. One thing I want to share about you is really formative in my experience was how I got called to charity. If you'd have known me when I was here as an undergrad, I wouldn't be talking about Mother Teresa. I was a finance major and I wanted to be a Wall Street broker. I knew where the money was. But it was the 60s and things changed and I changed. Probably the most important thing about me when I was in high school, because I know a lot of you are just coming out of high school experience, was that, you know, I liked proms, I liked dances, I liked games. I was point guard from Maumee High School, and to have the ball in my hand playing Harrisburg, there was nothing better to me. I loved having the ball in my hands. Everybody was in front of me. Homies, bands, cheerleaders, I love that experience. So like you, I had a lot of really good experiences in high school. One thing happened to me 4 times in my high school career. And I'm telling the story about me to open up something maybe in you. Maybe God is calling you in some certain way for charity or service of some way. What happened to me is when there would be a blizzard in Maumee, there was no weather channel then. The blizzards just came up and people were just like afraid, stranded, didn't know what to do with themselves. Well, one thing is, I usually get a ride home with friends. I lived a couple of miles from Maumee High School. But there was something in me that really, really wanted to push people out of the snow and the ice. Because I could tell people were scared. They were scared bad. And they just wanted to get home. And so the great joy was to push those cars and get people on the road, bang on the car on the side and say, you're going to make it. You know, I can't tell you how much that fulfilled me. More than the proms and more than the games was that experience. And I'd wind up being the last person in this frozen parking lot. I'd get in trouble with my parents. Where were you? You know, I can't tell you what happened to me, how my systems clicked in. when it came time when people were scared and they just wanted to get home. Maybe there's some experience in your life that calls you that seems a little unusual. Why do these things happen to me that aren't regular necessarily, but are being called to some sort of experience or service or love or charity in some way? And it took me a long time to put the pieces together about why did I enjoy pushing cars out rather than the proms or those sorts of things. And I think it's that peace that I could hear the fear in people's voices. And they just wanted to get home. Years later, when I was at the AIDS hospices that Mother Theresa runs around the world, it was basically she started with helping people die. It made sense to me that what I was called to do in this life, and what I'd love to go back and do it again, I'm sure, is help people who are really scared get home. You don't know me, you don't know me in that setting. My systems all come online when I'm in that setting. If your brother's dying of AIDS, you want me on the case. There's a lot of families that say, that John guy, get that John guy on the case. All my systems come on. I want to be there when you're scared, you need to get home. I've seen a lot of people die. It's a remarkable experience. There's a phrase that your grandparents used called giving up the ghost. And I've seen it a number of times. Something happens at that moment of death, and often you just have this experience of the spirit rising. So I know something happens when people are going somewhere. And this moves me. I don't know if you can tell, this moves me, but it really does. I went back over Christmas, and I'm going to say words that don't sound very interesting to you, maybe, but I went through another screaming death over Christmas. My systems come online for that. I love that. That is, I think, what God calls me to do, is to help people who are really scared. And it's not always pretty. What Mother Theresa did in her life wasn't always pretty. But I think she did it because she loved Jesus. And she understood that Jesus is in all of us. So I think I'll wind up there with my experience and really turn this more to you and your experience. More to clarify this thing about you have a personal life. Something's going on in your life that God is calling you. I think God wants to be very close to all of us. God is always trying to get us to be closer. And we're being called often to be close. I've had the ability to meet someone recently who, when I first met her here in July, I couldn't talk to her very easily. She was my next door neighbor, and it was very hard for me to talk to her. I didn't know what to talk to her about. Nothing seemed very interesting. I want to use Amy as an example of us. I think someone who's called. Don't mean to embarrass you, and we've talked about this. But my sense is that God is calling Amy as a mother. And we've talked about this a number of times. And maybe there's certain experiences that you're having and have had that are sort of these precursors, these pre-echoes, that God is calling you to something very special. I don't know. I'm just trying to make this personal. If it's happening for Amy, it's very possible it's happening in your life also. That's how God works, has been my experience. Thank you. And so I'd like to do something unique now to get you sort of out of your comfort zone in light of the fact that this is very personal. And we'll wind up with some music. But first of all, I'd like you to talk to somebody about what I've just shared with you. Have you ever had any sort of experience like this? Has anything ever happened in your life where you feel like I've been called for something, or I've had an experience that I can't explain very well? That's the way God calls us. That's the way God draws us closer. So I suggest now, pick somebody you don't know. Pick somebody that's going to be embarrassing to say, I want to talk to you. Let's just take 5 minutes now and talk to somebody about this subject, about where are you called? There's a little piece of cloth on there. If it's means something to you, that cloth was on Mother Teresa's body in Calcutta, and they changed that every day. So that touched her body, and so that would be like a